and welcome to part 3 of Magnolia Woo Unfolds It All by Chanel Miller. We are on the Flamingo Sock, which is page 62.
The Flamingo Sock. Magnolia and Iris were sitting on the floor of the laundromat, letting a plastic fan oscillate back and forth between the both of them. It feels illegal that we're the only ones who know how talented Alan is, Magnolia said, her hair lifting off her shoulders in the wind and then drifting back down. I know, but it's up to him when he wants to share his work, Iris said. She wiped her forehead. Can this fan speed go any higher? It's too hot. I miss swimming. I don't get where you swim. There were public pools in the city, but the truth was that Magnolia had never learned how to swim. So she simply responded, nowhere. I miss driving to the beach, Iris. The water was so cold, super salty. A seagull once stole my corn dog. It was so funny watching my corn dog fly away.
Pausing right there, I can make a connection. One time we gave a seagull a cracker, and the next thing we knew, there was like hundreds of seagulls looking for crackers, and they were like chasing us when we were trying to boat away from them. It was so funny. Seagulls love stealing food.
My mom would bury me in the sand. Well, obviously not my head, because I have to breathe. Then we'd go into the water and just float. And everyone on the shore looked so tiny. The ocean's the only place I felt totally calm. And even after, it's like, no matter how many times I clap my shoes together, more sand would just come out, you know? If you want to swim so badly, said Magnolia, jump in the fountain. As soon as she said it, Magnolia heard the mean undertone below her words. It was just that whenever Iris talked about wanting to be in California, Magnolia took it personally, like it meant Iris didn't want to be in New York with her. Magnolia wanted Iris to enjoy the city. And when she didn't, Magnolia felt hurt, became defensive. After that, Iris didn't bring up California again. Let's get moving, said Magnolia. The next sock was covered in neon pink flamingos. Iris was fascinated by their question mark-shaped necks and straw legs. They wondered out loud if the sock owner was a world traveler or zoologist. Magnolia closed her eyes, but all she saw were plastic flamingos, the flamingo figurines at Rosa's plant store growing up, and the flamingo stirring sticks in the iced drinks at Zito's pizza shop. Growing up smelled like soil and water and honeysuckle. It was plant paradise. All the green branches stuck out like they were reaching to high-five the customers. There were star-shaped flowers and furry cacti, and green vines dangling from the ceiling in loops. Magnolia sometimes went there just to take deep breaths. She imagined her lungs filling with clean air, the cloudy air of the city circulating out until her lungs were clear as balloons. When they entered, Iris placed herself directly beneath a plant mister, letting her face get sprinkled with water. Rosa waved them over to a tall plant in the center of the room that had white shards sprinkled into its soil. Hi, Rosa. This is my friend Iris, said Magnolia. Hello, Iris, said Rosa. You know, Magnolia's dad taught me to use broken eggshells as fertilizer? This sounded like something her parents would do. Use eggshells instead of store-bought fertilizer. Use old t-shirts instead of rags. Use recycled newspapers instead of table mats. She felt slightly embarrassed that her dad had suggested this, exposing their ways at home to Rosa. Did the eggshells work? Said Magnolia, wincing slightly. Are you kidding me? It's like my secret weapon. Your dad knows a lot about plants. He said he used to grow dahlias, whole fields of them. Magnolia couldn't imagine her father ruling over an entire plot of land. thousands of bright orange and pink dahlia flowers fluttering in the wind at his feet. She'd only seen him at the laundromat, growing a green onion in a glass jar, basil out of a cottage cheese container on the windowsill, or watering a hanging spider plant with yellow tips. She wondered what he would grow if he had room for a garden in the city, and wished she could see him in action.
Can you make a connection to any of the things that are happening right now? I can make one tiny connection. When I heard her talking about a specific type of plant, the dahlia flowers, or something else, green onions. We have green onions in my backyard. The hanging spider plant. Spider plants have lots of little long, leafy, almost like spider leg kind of green arms, I guess, for leaves. And my sister has lots of spider plants, and she hangs them up and they just kind of droop down. And she has regrown several spider plants by like cutting off branches and like re-putting them in soil and growing them, and it's been a cool experience to see her do that.
He's a natural, said Rosa. Top doctor at my plant hospital. By plant hospital, Rosa meant the wooden table at the back of the store, where plants that had snapped stems, brown leaves, and rotting roots went to heal. Any plant that's having a difficult time gets tended to over here, said Rosa. She lifted up a potted jasmine plant, crooked in soil that resembled crumbled Oreos. A dog dug up this plant, and now it's recovering. It's hard for plants when they're uprooted. It takes time for them to get grounded in new soil. It's called transplant shock. Magnolia thought about Iris, her roots stripped out of California, the vulnerability of trying to grow in a new city. It needs a little support, said Rosa. Rosa stuck a thin bamboo stick into the dirt and used 2 Velcro strips to secure it to the jasmine stem. Magnolia had never seen this technique before. The most important thing is to be patient. Sometimes I think a plant has no chance of blooming, and then boom, one day a bud appears. Meanwhile, every healing plant gets a flamingo to liven it up, Rosa said, sticking a plastic flamingo into the dirt. Speaking of flamingos, said Iris, taking out the sock, does this happen to be yours? Nope, but it's rad, Rosa said. You two must find so many treasures at the laundromat. Would you mind if I kept this? Said Iris, holding up a tiny root that was loose on the dirt-strewn table. Of course, and I have something even better for you. Rosa went into the back and returned with a few seeds in a small paper cup. Iris seeds, free of charge, said Rosa. Take care. And Magnolia, tell your dad to stop by sometime. I could use his orchid advice. Magnolia felt proud that her dad knew how to nourish these plants like nobody else. As they walked down the street, Iris rattled the seeds around in the cup. These seeds look like little pebbles or little rabbit poo, basically, said Iris. How are these things supposed to bloom? My dad once showed me the biggest magnolia tree in Central Park, said Magnolia, but it took like years to grow. I have to wait years, said Iris. Well, I don't know, said Magnolia. In New York, everything gets done fast, so I bet it'll bloom here better than anywhere else, especially California. Outside Zito's pizza shop, Magnolia could already smell the roasted tomatoes. The pizza slices at Zito's were so wide and thin that Magnolia imagined she could fold them into paper airplanes. She loved biting into the mozzarella that stretched like gooey cobweb before it snapped and dangled from the corners of her mouth. Magnolia, how are Mom and Dad? Said Zito. He patted his belly.
I want to pause right here and ask you a question. What do you notice about Magnolia and the community that she lives in? What have you noticed about every shop or restaurant or store that she's gone to? Almost every business owner, every person has greeted her by her first name or asks about her parents because, well, they must know them. What does that tell you about her community? Do you feel the same in your community? Like when you go places, do people say, "Oh, hey, so-and-so, and how are your parents doing? Tell your mom I said hi." Have you ever experienced being welcomed like that?
Take a look at these aprons, white as paper. White as paper, said the pizza chef. White as paper, said the guy at the register. Not a single tomato sauce stain, said Zito. Your parents must have some special recipe for their bleach. It's magic. They're magicians. Can I get you and your friend something? Zito's energy was so infectious, you couldn't help but feel buoyed by it. I was hoping to get one of those pink soda drinks, said Magnolia. Oh, Shirley Temple, your mom's favorite, he said. Wait, my mom likes that drink? Magnolia said. What do you mean? She's never told you? Zito leaned forward and planted 2 hands on the counter, which meant he was about to do a deep dive into a story. When your parents moved into the neighborhood, they came in looking for their first New York dollar slice pizza. Your mom sat right at this counter and saw a customer drinking a Shirley Temple. She pointed to it. I gave her one, pink and sparkly with a maraschino cherry and everything. She chugged 1, and then 2, and then 3 of them. 3. After that, she proudly announced, my English name is Shirley.
I'm going to pause right here. It seems like she really likes Shirley Temples. Have you ever had one when you went out to drink? I believe it's a mix of some sort of cherry-ish concoction with Sprite, and oh my goodness, it's good. Sometimes they even put a cherry on top of the drink. That is my sister's favorite drink when we were younger and would go out to restaurants. She would always order it.
Dad made a joke because he'd eaten all his pepperoni and said, okay, my name is Pepperoni. They're funny, the 2 of them. But your mom wasn't joking. Right here, she claimed that name for herself. Magnolia shook her head. She never told me that story, she said. It's a classic. I assumed you knew. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Magnolia's mom as Shirley, but Magnolia had never thought about the origin of it, hadn't realized she'd chosen it for herself. My mom's real name is Xiao Hua, said Magnolia. Years of living here, and I never knew that, said Zito. How did I not know that? That's a perfectly good name. I never thought to ask her why she didn't just keep that one. I guess she was worried it was too complicated for people to pronounce, said Magnolia. Magnolia, listen to me, Zito said, looking her dead in the eye. People are walking around saying big words like xylophone, pepperoncini, Guggenheim Museum. If they can't make the effort to learn her name, then that's big time baloney. I'm serious. I'm going to practice it right now until I get it right. Xiao Hua, he said, repeating it slowly 4 times. The sounds came out slippery at first, and then smooth. See? 30 seconds and I've got it. Not hard at all. If someone doesn't have 30 seconds to learn it, then they're not worth your time in the first place. Let me get you that Shirley Temple. He slid 2 slices of hot cheese pizza before them on paper plates and went to make her drink. Magnolia's joy deflated. The second Aspen appeared in the doorway. 2 friends behind him, a basketball tucked beneath his arm. Just seeing him made her stomach shrivel up. Every hurtful nickname Magnolia had gained at school had been concocted by Aspen. Stinker, pipsqueaky clean, wash and fold woo. Without exception, every time Aspen opened his mouth, Magnolia ended up feeling smaller than she had the moment before. If he comes over, don't say anything, she said to Iris. Magnolia's mood lifted back up when the drink arrived, bubbling in pink as if cherry blossoms and stardust had been mixed together. Zito placed another straw in the soda for Iris, and the two of them sipped away. Magnolia took out the flamingo stirring stick that had been stabbed through a maraschino cherry. She set it down and glanced up to see Aspen staring. "What?" said Magnolia. Aspen averted his eyes and took a bite out of his pizza. "Your pink drink looks bleh," he said, mouthful of mashed up cheese. "What's wrong with pink? You're afraid of a color?" said Iris. "Pink is girly," said Aspen. Zito overheard this and turned to face Aspen. "Does that mean my tongue is girly?" said Zito, sticking out his pink tongue. "Is it girly if I eat cotton candy?" said the pizza chef. "Are pigs girly?" said the guy at the register. "And besides, what's wrong with being girly?" said Zito. Aspen didn't have an answer. "Nothing, I guess," Aspen said eventually. "Good," said Zito. "Good," said the pizza chef. "Good," said the guy at the register. Magnolia was grateful they'd snuffed out the disturbance. She and Iris inhaled the drink until there was nothing left but ice, and then presented the flamingo sock to Zito. "We were wondering if this was yours," Magnolia said. "Let me take a look at that," he said. Zito tied the long flamingo sock around his head like a headband and called over to Aspen. "I'm wearing pink flamingos on my head, and I think it looks pretty nice. Do you agree?" Aspen simply nodded. Zito unraveled it from his head and handed it back to Magnolia. "I don't know whose sock this is," said Zito, "but if you find the owner and they don't want it, bring it back here. It looks good on you. And tell your parents to stop by for soda. It's been years." Magnolia couldn't remember the last time her parents had gone out for a meal, just the two of them. She liked to imagine her mom slurping soda after soda, enjoying an empty afternoon with nowhere to be. "Thanks, Zito," she said. Aspen and his friends got up to leave. As he walked out the door, Magnolia heard him say, "Catch!" Before Magnolia could turn around, a crumpled napkin hit the back of her head. "I told you to catch," Aspen said, already out the door. "The least they could do is clean up after themselves," Iris said, snatching up the napkin. She went to toss the napkin in the trash when she noticed some letters scribbled inside. She uncrumpled the napkin and spread it flat on the table. "Follow the pennies" was scrawled out messily in ballpoint pen. "What is this, some kind of prank?" Magnolia said, flipping the napkin over. "Why would Aspen write this?" She unfolded the napkin, and inside there was one small word: "Please." Aspen was not a please kind of person. In fact, she didn't think she'd ever heard him say anything polite in his life. To use this word meant that he really needed you to do something. The two of them looked outside the glass door and spotted a penny glistening on the sidewalk.
I want you to do two things. I want you to think about what's going to happen next. If you got a note that said, "Follow the pennies," do you think you would follow it? Do you think Magnolia and Iris are going to follow it? And two, do you know anybody like Aspen, who never says please and is always making unkind comments and things like that? Do you know someone like that? Why do you think Aspen is treating Magnolia not kind?
It was easy to create a path of pennies because most people didn't bother picking pennies up. So they followed the tiny glistening copper discs that trailed down a sidewalk strewn with chip bags, cigarettes, and exposed toes wrapped in thick brown sandals. And then the pennies stopped. A single penny had been placed in the center of the doormat outside of Need to Read, a small bookstore. The store smelled like old cardboard and forest mushrooms and had sunken chairs and teetering towers of used books. What stood out was a single piece of pepperoni, bright and red against the floorboards. Magnolia figured that Aspen had run out of pennies and was now using pepperoni slices to guide them. Pepperoni was wise to use indoors, since outside, the shiny circles of meat would have been swept up by a rat or pigeon or toddler. And so they followed the pieces of pepperoni, pepperoni, pepperoni down a narrow aisle of books. The trail of greasy red dots led them to a small step stool. Wedged below one of the step stool's legs was a thin piece of paper folded into fourths. Iris unfolded the creased paper, which turned out to be a pizza receipt. In the center of it was the same scribbly handwriting. It read, "Behind the castle."
I'm wondering if this is the castle he's referencing, or if it's a different castle. What do you think?
Iris looked up, and there, right above the step stool, hung a large oil painting of a hill. Thin brushstrokes of green grass with a gray blob on top of it that was so small it could have been mistaken for a stone. Iris stood on the step stool, perched on her tippy toes, and realized the gray spot was a castle so small you could pinch it. In order to search behind the castle, they swung the painting to the side, feeling around behind the frame to see what they could find. Bundled up in the bottom corner of the frame was a white nest of string. The string, unraveled, turned out to be a shoelace. A shoelace with tiny letters spelled across it that read, "Chauncey, 284. They scanned the section of shelves alphabetically until they found the authors listed under C. There it was, a book by Arthur Chauncey, titled Animal Factoids. They flipped the book open to page 284, which featured a black and white sketch of flamingos. Below the drawing was a passage that read, "Question, why are flamingos pink?" Answer, flamingos are naturally born with gray feathers. Their diet consists of brine, shrimp, and algae that contain carotenoids, which are colorful pigments. After years of consumption, their feathers turn pink. You are what you eat. That was it. That was all the page said. Magnolia was confused. She heard something that sounded like air released from a balloon. There was a mop of hair peeking between the books. It was Aspen, making a shushing motion. A noticeable fleck of parmesan stuck to his upper lip. As Magnolia watched him, framed in between decaying books with a speck of cheese on his face, his image seemed to soften, drained of all the intensity and intimidation he usually possessed around his friends. Still, Magnolia was on edge, guarding herself against any incoming verbal jabs. "Since when do you go to bookstores?" said Magnolia. "I need my sock back," he whispered. "How do we know it's yours?" said Iris. "Page 284. I already showed you," he said. "I like flamingos and I know a lot about them, and the sock is mine." "So what, are flamingos like your favorite animal or something?" said Magnolia. "You seem like more of a snake person. And if it's your sock, why didn't you just claim it at the pizza shop?" said Iris. "It's embarrassing," he said, his eyes starting to fill up. "Now that we're in private, just give it back." "Why should we?" said Magnolia. Magnolia detected that Aspen was getting agitated and felt an odd satisfaction, withholding something that he wanted, finally having some power for once. But then she felt Iris place a hand on her shoulder, as if telling her to ease up. Now Magnolia noticed that Aspen's eyes were glossing over, and his lower lip was trembling, but this was more than a light-hearted exchange. It was not Magnolia's intention to make him cry. She didn't even know that he was capable of it. But just because Aspen's eyes were watery, didn't mean Magnolia was going to magically forgive him for years of humiliating her. "Fine," said Magnolia. "I'll give you this sock. But in exchange, you have to stop making fun of the laundromat." "You don't get it," said Aspen. "You don't even know how good you have it." "What are you talking about?" said Magnolia. He took a deep breath. Iris glanced at Magnolia, trying to see if she knew what was about to come, but Magnolia lightly shook her head. "My dad," said Aspen, exhaling, as if saying the word already made him tired. He paused to start the story again, grappling for another way to begin. first time we came into the laundromat, my dad threw my stuffed dog, Otto, into a washing machine with all of our clothes, and I started screaming. I thought it would kill him, all the hot water and bubbles. I really thought that. My dad just gripped my arm and said, "How can you be so stupid? It's not real, it's a toy, it's not real." Over and over again, he said that. And I cried for hours, couldn't stop, even though my dad was furious. I was sure Otto was dead. Aspen quickly shook his head, as if recalling the memory was like letting a wasp land on him. Now he wanted to take it away. Anyway, when we came back later to get our clothes, your dad pulled me aside. He handed me Otto and lifted the flap of his ear. He'd sewn these little black lines into his fur. He said they were gills, like fish, so Otto had the power to breathe underwater. He said Otto was clean and fine and had a really good time in the skin cycle. Aspen looked at Magnolia. I guess I was worried that if you found out about that story, you'd tell kids at school. So he teased you about the laundromat so that you'd never talk about it. I'm sorry. Your dad is like, he wrung his hands together. Nice. He's really, really nice. Magnolia's mind was trying to process this new information, imagining the tumbling dog and the crying boy, and her own dad sewing in a tiny secret behind Otto's ear. It had never occurred to Magnolia that Aspen would admire her life or her family. Without another word, Magnolia handed over the sock, and Aspen immediately pressed it between his hands, as if he was worried that if he didn't hold it tight enough, it'd slip away again. I'm glad Otto's okay, said Magnolia. Can I ask why the flamingos? Said Iris. Do you also have a stuffed flamingo or something? Aspen shook his head. It's a little more complicated than that. He nodded toward the book in their hand. Did you read the passage? Iris and Magnolia nodded. Aspen's eyes scanned the shelves, his mind slipping into another memory. I came across it recently, he said. I've been coming here after school for a while. It's the best. Magnolia had imagined Aspen assuming this kind of awestruck tone when describing a sports stadium or an arcade, but definitely not a room wallpapered with smiling bookworms. It's quiet here, not like home. I can't stand being at home. Like I said, my dad. He calls me stupid or dumb or slow. You get the idea. The other day, he called me incomplete. You mean incompetent? Said Magnolia. Iris gave her a look, as if warning her that Aspen was now dipping a toe in vulnerable waters by opening himself up, and if they startled him, he'd never wade in any deeper. The more he called me stupid, the more I believed him. I was stupid, and there was nothing I could do about it. But one day, I was flipping through these books and learned that thing about flamingos, how they're actually gray, but turn pink after eating shrimp. Flamingos become what they consume. Aspen took another breath. So I started to imagine that my dad's words were like shrimp. If I absorb them into my system, I become them. I turn stupid, turn pink. But if I spit them out, I get to stay myself, stay gray. His words won't change me if I don't let them.
Ooh, I love that. His words won't change me if I don't let them. It's kind of like, it's unfortunate that this is his dad. I hope that no one is ever in a situation where their parents are saying unkind things like this to them. But if you have what you think are your friends saying negative things to you, like you're stupid or you're mean or they're making negative comments towards you, you don't have to listen to them. I would walk away just like he's hiding in the library or trying not to be at home. Remove yourself from situations where people are making you feel bad because they're not really your friends. And his dad's not really being a good dad saying these unkind things to him.
Don't ever repeat what I just told you. Magnolia nodded. They watched as Aspen stooped over to pick up the remaining pepperoni, wiping his greasy fingertips on his shorts. "Don't forget to put the book back in the right place," he said. He pushed his way out the door, turned, and pressed his finger to his lips one more time to make the hush symbol, and then he was gone. "Can I see the receipt?" said Iris. Magnolia handed Iris the pizza receipt that was now damp from her clammy hand. Iris pulled a pencil from the side of her knapsack, then pressed the receipt flat against the wall to create a hard surface. In tall, clear letters, Iris wrote, "I hope you stay gray." Iris tucked the note into the book before sliding it back on the shelf.
Oh, what a positive, friendly, and kind thing to do. So if he just opened up to them and said why he's been mean all this time was because he's kind of being treated mean at home, now that doesn't really give him an excuse to be mean to them, but at least we have an explanation to why he was doing it. And now that the girls know, Iris wrote him a kind, positive note saying, "I hope you stay gray," as in, I hope you don't listen to your dad calling you stupid. Thank you for reading Part 3 with me of Magnolia Woo Unfolds It All by Chanel Miller. We have successfully found the owner for the flamingo socks, and I think we have a few socks remaining. So please join us in Part 4 to see who sock we find next. I hope you have a sumptuous rest of your day, and keep reading. Remember, I am so very proud of you.